Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of All-Star Financial, where we cover financial news in the industry, bookkeeping, tax, payroll, and take questions from the audience via comment section below. In this edition, we'll be discussing Buffett's Corner, some articles I read about Warren Buffett's tips for surviving a crisis, financial crisis, as we are currently undergoing under this pandemic with everybody locked down. And then, of course, we'll give you an update on the checks because that is the element of the stimulus packages that everyone is most interested in. Now, Warren Buffett, for all those out there who may not be familiar with him, is a multi-billionaire, and he made his money through the stock market. But unlike a lot of stock market investors who rode trends and rode numbers and did a lot of analysts research on trying to get ahead of the curve, Buffett took a very different approach. He took a look at who was running these companies, trends in the news, and he made a long-term plan. So when people got scared when stocks were dropping, he stuck it out and he rode the next wave up. And over the long term, everything he invested in went up considerably. So he has a number of financial tips that he recommends to people to help them raise their own fortunes. Granted, he's a very slow turtle type of investor in that he doesn't look for the quick buck, he looks for long-term gains, and that's where he has made his billions, by staying the long course. So some of his recommendations, and these are things I actually agree with as well, being a financial coach and financial advisor and accountant for very small businesses. These are things I agree with wholeheartedly with Warren Buffett's advice. The first thing is to never carry credit card balances if you can absolutely avoid it. Credit card balances, when I first got credit cards, were as low as 6%. Nowadays, you're hard-pressed to find anything under 20%. And paying 20% interest on a credit card balance is just like mafia money. It is ridiculously expensive and it's so hard to dig yourself out of. And because of which, 40% of credit card holders of all credit card holders carry a balance, and that in of itself, the 40% of credit card holders that carry a balance make up the billion-dollar annual revenues that credit card companies collectively earn. It is a massive profit on less than 50% of cardholders. So sure, they have all those promotions out there about interest-free that or bonus that. They're trying to get you in. They know that over half the people who get these cards are going to be well-deserved and are going to get some degree of payouts at some point, whether it's cash back, sign-up bonuses, all kinds of things. But they also know that the 40% who get these cards are going to go in with good intentions and then end up owing them for life, more or less. So anybody who can avoid carrying balances and paying interest on those balances, please try and do that. And if you need guidance or tips on how to get rid of your credit card balances, how to reduce your interest rate, how to get out of debt, please let me know in the comment section below. I do financial coaching and debt management coaching. I'll be happy to lend you some tips and help you along with that process. Prepare for the worst. In this case, what he's referring to is having a disaster relief financial cushion, what people refer to as an emergency savings account, in which you have X percentage of either a minimum of, Dave Ramsey would say $1,000, as Susan Norman would say 6 months. There are a lot of financial experts out there. I suggest that you have to have enough financial cushion that you have the leverage to, that if something happened in a given month, you had the financial resources to cover that. In most cases, $1,000 is probably more than enough. I personally have not had an emergency that cost me more than $1,000 at a shot. What I look at, though, is not just getting through one hurdle. It's about, okay, in January, if I have a problem that cost me $250 to deal with, throw the emergency fund at that, no big deal. But now you've got to figure out, I've got to replenish that supply. Well, that's for instead of settling at just $1,000, you need to determine, and if you are interested in what number works best for you, we can go through some calculations to what makes sense for you. If you don't want to go through those calculations, start at $1,000. See how that goes for a few months, and see if you ever actually have to use it. I've had situations where I know people who have had to lean on a higher number than that to get through one crisis and not be set back to zero, more or less, because of that thing. Yeah, they got over that crisis, but then they had nothing left over to bank on. So I do maintain personally more than $1,000 in my emergency fund, but we can, if you're interested in learning more about what number to shoot for, what works best in your situation, feel free to leave comments in the section below. I'll be happy to go over those details. Careful with stocks. In this case, I personally do not get involved in stock market investing. That's like betting on games, on sports games, if you don't know what you're doing, and I don't get involved in stock investing here. But for those who do, stocks can be a highly, highly valuable market, and as somebody who's made billions of dollars off that, Warren Buffett would know that the best. And so, one thing he suggests is that if you're going to get into a stock, you make sure you make a plan for how long you're going to ride that out for, and no matter what happens to the price, you stay put with it. As the adage goes, you buy low, sell high. But how do you know where that stock is ultimately going to be? You have no fortune cookie or genie magic to figure out what it's going to look like over the next quarter, over the next year, over the next 5 years. You pick a period by which you are committing to ride it out, and you ride it out, regardless of what happens to it. Look at it in terms of, if I'm going to put $100 into a stock, assume that I'm going to lose 100% of it, like I'm betting on a sports game. It's gone, okay? That way, if by any other period of term, whether it's a year or 5 years, whatever it is, if you've gained money, great. If you've lost money, you weren't expecting to in the first place. Just some friendly advice. And again, that brings me to stick to your long-term plan. When you put together a financial strategy to get to point A to point B before the crisis hits, during the crisis, whatever it is, you got to make sure that you don't react emotionally to the events going on around you. You have a plan, stick it out. Figure out a way to navigate through the current situation so you can maintain the course and sail that ship. Because if you're taking a boat from Europe to America, you don't want to take a left-hand turn and end up in Antarctica. You want to keep on going straight, get to your final destination. Switching directions a lot isn't going to help you in the long term. It's just going to take longer to get to where you want to get to, and it can set you back. If, for example, you are leaving France and you're for Canada, and you end up taking a turn, and you end up in England. You didn't get anywhere. You went to an alternate destination that wasn't your original goal. Stick to your long-term plan. It takes a little bit of self-control and objectivity to do so, but you can do it. And lower your interest rates. In a market like this, you have a lot of vendors who are trying to take advantage of the market situation here, and so while a lot of deals are outrageous, there are deals to be found. Lowering your interest on your mortgage, getting 0% credit cards, getting XYZ. There are ways to move a debt into a lower interest rate, which will help you pay it off quicker and save you money now. I, for example, have moved my car loan into a 0% interest-bearing account, and now I went from paying $500 a year in interest on that 6.5% to paying a fraction of that. In fact, actually, by a fraction of that I mean like 0 in interest. The debt's getting paid off. It's moving down, but every single dollar I put towards it, I can see the balance decreasing instead of only a portion of it via the interest. So if you'd like to learn more about how to reduce your interest rates on your debts, 0% in some cases, please feel free to let me know. And last but not least, I wanted to give everyone a quick update on the checks. As of Friday, the IRS reports they have sent out on Friday the 22nd, the IRS reports they have sent out 150 million checks, whether physical paper mail or direct deposit. Their claim is that when they first issued were given directive to order the stimulus checks and the payments, they told the American people it could take up to 16 to 20 weeks to receive your money, which puts you in August, September. Which means that while most checks have gone out at this point, and they aren't finished yet. There aren't that many to go out left, but the vast majority of those who are getting checks have gotten them already. And they suggest that if you haven't gotten yours and you are actually entitled to it, see your tax professional when you go and file your 2020 tax. They may be able to sort that out for you, provide you some answers as to what happened to it, where it went, how to get it, things of that nature. As a tax preparer, you're going to get what you're going to get. Because the tax preparation is based upon what you did the previous year, not about what you're going to do the following year. So feel free to ask those questions to your tax professional, but I would recommend going to your financial advisor and asking them how to go about pursuing that. They probably studied it, they probably know more about how to do that, and I do financial advising for some people. However, short of getting it sorted out through your 2020 tax return, if you haven't gotten your checks by August, September, you're not getting it. On the plus side, the new HEROES Act, if it ever gets passed, will give you a second round, so give you a second chance. Make sure your account's in good standing with the IRS. Make sure that you don't have any back taxes, and that you have direct deposit set up with them. Having said that, the IRS call centers are closed, and they have been for over a month now. I've been trying to get a hold of them regularly, not for myself per se, but to get information for my clients, to get them, and their call centers are closed, so we're just going based upon what they can find out online via logging into their IRS account and looking around. So, that having been said, if you have any questions, if you would like to learn more about anything discussed here or anything else related to financial interest, please leave your comments and questions in the section below. I would love to hear all about them and have a nice conversation with you, and provide you my 2 cents on various financial scenarios. If you just happen to find this video while going through YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel. And as always, thank you for watching.